Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather to examine a vital question that many of us face in our lives. How do we know if the desire we have for someone is truly from God or simply a product of our own will? This is not a question of surface level emotions or fleeting attractions. This is a matter of discernment, of recognizing God's hand in shaping our relationships and our connections with others. When God sends someone into your life, it's not by accident. It's a part of His divine purpose for you. It will not always be easy, nor will it always align with your personal preferences. But today I want to share with you 4 unmistakable signs that will guide you in understanding if the desire for someone is truly from God. When God places someone in your life, it is never by coincidence. It is not based on the convenience of the moment or the comfort of your situation. Too often, we find ourselves seeking relationships or connections that simply make life easier. We long for people who can fulfill our immediate needs or give us temporary satisfaction. But when God's hand is in it, the divine alignment takes precedence over personal convenience. It will never be about what's easiest for you, but always about what is best for you according to His purpose. God's purpose for your life is far bigger than what you may see in the present moment. His vision for you stretches beyond your current circumstances and taps into the potential of who you are meant to become. So when He brings someone into your life, it's not merely about fulfilling a short-term need or making your journey smoother. It's about shaping you, refining you, and preparing you for the destiny He has ordained for you. Often the person God sends won't make life easier in the way you might hope. In fact, they might challenge you in ways that make you uncomfortable. They might even push you to areas of your life you would have rather left untouched. But that's the beauty of divine alignment. It doesn't cater to your desires for comfort. It seeks to align you with God's will, and sometimes that will mean growing through discomfort. Think about the story of Joseph. His brothers threw him into a pit, and that pit led to a series of trials that could have broken him. But those trials were not a sign of God abandoning him. They were God's way of aligning him with His greater plan. Those challenges, those uncomfortable moments were precisely the things that positioned Joseph to rise to power and fulfill his purpose. The very things that seemed like setbacks were the stepping stones to his destiny. Had he chosen convenience, had he chosen to avoid the hardship and struggle, he would have missed the alignment that was being orchestrated by God Himself. When you understand this, you begin to see that divine alignment is not about finding someone who is simply comfortable or convenient. It's about finding someone who challenges you, helps you grow, and propels you into your purpose. If you are only looking for ease and convenience, you might end up ignoring or dismissing the very person God has sent to shape your life. God's alignment may not come in a way that satisfies your temporary desires, but it will always come in a way that satisfies your eternal purpose. This is the key to understanding relationships that are truly from God. They will never just be about making life more convenient for you. They will always lead you to something higher, something more significant. You may find yourself called to do things that stretch your faith, your patience, and your endurance, but in the end, you will realize that this is not just about you. It is about fulfilling the plan that God has for you and for those around you. God's alignment is always about growth, about preparing you for something greater than your current understanding. You will be shaped by this person, not just in the comfortable moments, but in the challenging ones. When God sends someone into your life, they may challenge your beliefs, your habits, and even your heart. But through these challenges, you are becoming the person He has destined you to be. Divine alignment then is not about the ease of the journey, it is about the fulfillment of the destination. When you trust God's hand in your relationships, you will begin to see that even the uncomfortable moments are part of His perfect design. This is the truth we must embrace. If you are in a relationship that aligns with God's purpose for you, it will not always be easy. but it will always lead to something greater. The desire may not make sense in the moment, but when you look back, you will see the wisdom of God in every step. In those moments of discomfort, you will realize that God is preparing you for something more significant than you could have ever imagined. His divine alignment is not about the convenience of today, but the power of tomorrow. So when God places someone in your life, trust that it is not for the sake of making things easier, but for the sake of making you better, stronger, and more aligned with His will for your life. When God is involved in your relationships, one of the clearest signs is the peace He provides. This peace is unlike anything the world offers. It is unshakable, steady, and unmovable, no matter the circumstances surrounding you. When your desire for someone is from God, it comes with a peace that settles deep in your spirit. It is a peace that doesn't change when the winds of doubt blow, when the storms of life rage, or when the path ahead seems unclear. Instead of feeling uneasy, anxious, or uncertain, you will experience a stillness that can only come from God. It's a quiet assurance that says, this is right. This is where I am supposed to be. Think about it for a moment. When we are chasing after our own desires, we often find ourselves caught in emotional turmoil. We question, second guess, and wrestle within ourselves. One moment we feel confident, and the next doubt creeps in. Emotions can fluctuate wildly, and the inner conflict we feel leaves us in a state of confusion. We become entangled in our own emotions, unsure of whether we are truly following God's will or simply satisfying our own wants. But peace from God, when He is guiding your steps, will never leave you in such turmoil. His peace doesn't waver with changing circumstances or moods. It's not dependent on how things look today or how you feel in the moment. His peace stands firm. When you know that God has brought someone into your life, you feel that peace is not just a passing calm. It's a peace that stays with you deep in your soul. You won't have to second guess if you're making the right decision or if this is the right path. Even when challenges arise, even when things get tough, there is an underlying sense of trust that God is in control. You are not carrying the weight alone. The desire, the relationship, the connection, it all feels like it fits perfectly within the larger picture that God has already mapped out for you. This peace, my friends, doesn't ignore the challenges or pretend everything is perfect. Rather, it is the assurance that no matter what you face, God is in the middle of it, guiding, leading, and protecting. You know deep within your heart that He is with you. And that knowledge gives you a peace that nothing can disturb. You may experience storms, moments of difficulty, but in the midst of it all, you remain anchored. This peace is a sign of God's presence. It is a quiet confirmation that what you are desiring is in line with His will. In contrast, when our desires are driven by our own emotions or personal agenda, peace is often absent. Emotional turmoil takes over. We feel restless, uncertain, and full of doubt. We find ourselves questioning whether we made the right choice, wondering if we should stay or move on. Our minds race with all sorts of thoughts, creating chaos inside us. We are tossed back and forth like the waves of the sea, searching for peace that feels out of reach. But when God is in it, peace doesn't disappear during the difficult moments. It stays. It anchors you. You may not have all the answers or know exactly where the journey is headed, but you will know that you are walking in God's direction. That assurance alone brings peace. You will find that instead of being pulled by every emotion and external factor, you are firmly grounded in the knowledge that God has a plan and He is leading you through it. This peace is something you can't manufacture. It doesn't come from your own efforts or from trying to control your circumstances. It comes only from trusting in the Creator of peace. When you surrender your desires and trust that God is guiding you, that peace envelops you like a warm embrace. It's the peace that confirms that God is orchestrating every step, even when the road ahead is unclear. So if you find yourself constantly wrestling, full of confusion and doubt, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself if you are truly following God's lead, or if you are pursuing your own desires, driven by emotions or temporary attractions. The peace of God will never lead you into a place of turmoil. It will lead you to a place of rest, assurance, and trust, even in the midst of uncertainty. When the desire for someone is from God, you will experience that unshakable peace that keeps you grounded no matter what life throws your way. When God places someone in your life, it will not be to fulfill your personal desires or satisfy your human needs. It will be to strengthen your faith and help you grow in ways you never imagined. We often approach relationships with the hope that they will meet our needs, our emotional, physical, or material needs. We look for someone who will make us feel good, secure, and loved in the ways we expect. But when the desire for someone comes from God, the ultimate goal is not personal fulfillment, it is spiritual growth. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that our true fulfillment does not come from satisfying our own desires, but from aligning ourselves with His purpose and walking in obedience to His will. The person God places in your life will challenge you. They will not always be what you imagined or what you thought you wanted. In fact, they may sometimes feel uncomfortable, but it is precisely in this discomfort that your faith will be stretched. They will not simply affirm your desires or give you what you want in the moment. Instead, they will push you toward your destiny, toward becoming the person God created you to be. The relationship will not revolve around how this person makes you feel in the short term, but how they help you grow in your relationship with God. You will find yourself being tested in ways you never anticipated. Perhaps this person will challenge your values or beliefs, prompting you to examine them more deeply and refine your understanding of God's truth. Maybe they will call you to a higher standard of love, patience, and forgiveness, challenging you to walk in a way that reflects God's character. Through this process, your faith will deepen and your trust in God's guidance will grow stronger. God desires to see you thrive spiritually, not just emotionally or materially. The relationships He sends into your life will be instruments that lead you into greater obedience and trust. When you look at someone through the lens of faith, you begin to see beyond the surface. You see their role in your life, not just as a companion, but as a fellow traveler on the journey of faith. They are there to help you become who God has called you to be, even if it means pushing you out of your comfort zone and challenging your perspective. At times, the relationship may not make sense to your natural mind. You may ask yourself, why this person? Why now? But it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty that God is working the most. It is in the discomfort, the stretching, the refining that your faith is growing. You are learning to rely on God more than ever before. You are learning to trust His timing, His wisdom, and His plan for your life. The more you lean into God's will, the more you will realize that the true purpose of every relationship He brings into your life is not to meet your immediate desires, but to lead you into a deeper, more profound relationship with Him. The desire for someone from God will stir something in you that surpasses your earthly needs. It will stir a desire for greater faith, for a closer walk with God, and for the fulfillment of His purpose in your life. It will challenge you to rise above the distractions of the world and focus on what truly matters, growing in your faith and fulfilling the destiny God has for you. When your faith is the focus, everything else falls into place. As you grow spiritually, you will see the fulfillment of God's promises, not just in your relationship with this person, but in every area of your life. Your perspective will shift from seeking personal satisfaction to seeking God's will. You will no longer look at relationships as mere means to an end, but as divine appointments that God uses to shape you, mold you, and draw you closer to His heart. In this journey of faith, there will be moments of doubt, moments where you question the path you are on. But remember, the purpose of the person in your life is not to give you everything you think you need, but to help you grow in the person God has called you to become. As your faith is strengthened, so too will your understanding of God's love and His purpose for you. You will begin to see relationships not just as emotional connections, but as God-ordained opportunities for spiritual transformation. And in that, you will find the fulfillment you have been seeking all along, because the greatest fulfillment comes from walking in the fullness of God's plan for your life. When God places someone in your life, it is not a random event or an accident. It is intentional, purposeful, and divinely orchestrated. The relationship is not just about the emotions it evokes or the temporary satisfaction it might bring. The desire for someone that comes from God is always rooted in purpose. You see, God is a God of purpose. Everything He does with intention, with a plan that stretches beyond our limited understanding. Our human nature often looks for relationships or connections that bring us immediate gratification, that feed our ego, our desires, our emotions. But God, in His wisdom, knows that the greatest fulfillment comes not from the fleeting pleasures of life, but from the fulfillment of His greater purpose in our lives. When the desire for someone is rooted in purpose, it shifts the focus away from what we can get out of the relationship and directs our attention to what we can give. It moves us from a mindset of self-centeredness to one of service and sacrifice. Instead of looking for someone who will simply meet our emotional needs or fulfill our desires, we begin to look for someone who can help us grow, someone who can challenge us to become better versions of ourselves, someone who can help us pursue God's call on our lives more fully. The relationship becomes about helping each other grow in Christ, serving one another in love, and advancing the kingdom of God together. When the desire for someone is from God, the relationship has a purpose that transcends temporary emotions. It is not about the highs and lows, the romantic gestures, or the fleeting moments of happiness. These things are wonderful, but they are not the foundation. The foundation is deeper than that. It is about fulfilling a higher calling, about building something that will stand the test of time, something that will bear fruit, not just for you, but for the generations to come. God's purpose in bringing someone into your life is to help you both fulfill His plan, to help you live out His will in a way that glorifies Him. You are no longer just two people seeking companionship. You are two people on a mission called together to serve a higher purpose. This purpose-driven desire is not about convenience, nor is it about making your life easier. It will often stretch you, challenge you, and take you to places you never expected to go. It will require sacrifice, patience, and a willingness to grow. It may not always be comfortable, but it will always be fulfilling. Because when you are walking in alignment with God's purpose, you are walking in alignment with His best for your life. And that is always far greater than anything you could imagine for yourself. It's a purpose that takes you beyond the temporary, beyond the surface level attractions, into something eternal and profound. The relationship that God brings into your life with purpose will challenge your character, refine your heart, and deepen your faith. It will push you to become the person God created you to be, not just for the relationship, but for the calling on your life. In a world where instant gratification is the norm, God's way is different. He calls us to something greater, something that lasts. And when our desire for someone is aligned with His purpose, it transforms the way we view relationships, the way we approach love, and the way we live our lives. Purpose over pleasure, it is a mindset that shifts everything. It takes the focus off of self, and places it on the greater good, the greater plan, the higher calling that God has for both individuals. When the desire is from God, the relationship becomes a tool, a vehicle to advance His kingdom, to impact lives, to serve, and to reflect His love and grace in the world. It is no longer just about feeling good, but about doing good. It's about creating something that lasts, something meaningful, something that aligns with God's eternal plan. This is why we must be careful not to confuse fleeting pleasure with lasting purpose. Pleasure may feel good for a moment, but it fades. Purpose, however, lasts. Purpose is what will carry you through the trials, the hardships, and the challenges that come with any relationship. When your desire for someone is based on purpose, you are not simply seeking someone who will make you happy for a time. You are seeking someone who will walk alongside you in fulfilling God's greater plan. That person will be the one who encourages you to grow, to stretch, to step out in faith, and to continue pursuing God's will, even when it's hard. When God brings someone into your life for His purpose, it will be a relationship that stands the test of time. It will not be defined by emotional highs and lows, but by the steady commitment to fulfilling God's plan. And when both individuals are rooted in that purpose, the relationship will bear much fruit that will impact not only your lives, but the lives of those around you and even generations to come. Purpose over pleasure. It's a call to live for something greater than ourselves. When your desire for someone is guided by God's purpose, you are not just chasing a fleeting feeling. You are chasing a divine calling, a mission that will bring fulfillment, not just in this life, but in eternity. My friends, the desire for someone in your life must be rooted in purpose, not pleasure. When God brings someone into your path, it is not for temporary fulfillment, but for the fulfillment of His eternal plan. It is not about what you can gain from the relationship, but about what you can give, how you can grow, and how together you can advance the kingdom of God. God's purpose always transcends our fleeting desires and emotions. It challenges us to rise above the surface and focus on the deeper, more meaningful calling that He has placed on our lives. So as you reflect on your relationships, ask yourself, are they rooted in purpose? Are they pushing you closer to God's will for your life? When your desire for someone aligns with His purpose, you will experience peace, fulfillment, and growth that far exceeds anything you could have imagined. Trust in God's plan. Let your relationships be guided by His purpose, and watch how He transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you for His glory. Stay focused on His calling, stay committed to His purpose, and let the relationships you build reflect His love, His grace, and His divine plan. The journey may not always be easy, but it will always be easy. But it will always be worth it, because it will lead you to the fulfillment of God's greatest desires for you. May your hearts and lives be filled with purpose now and always.